Welcome back to Kanvs with Michael Durant. Thank you for clicking and watching this episode. This is going to be a great episode. This is going to be, I'm going to say, a part one of 2 sessions. The reason why is because I noticed something as I was looking at the news, going through social media for the last 3 days, and I was hearing some of the pain that a certain group of people are going through. They're not looked at as people that should get the support. And sometimes we're all clumped together. And if any of you know me, I am always on the side of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, business owners. We are on the front line trying to live a vision, a dream, bring some inspiration, innovation to the marketplace. And when we're hit, we're not looked at as always the ones that should have empathy for. In this episode, we have a great guest with us, Kimberly Malloy, and we're going to be talking about the psychological costs it takes to be the boss, right here on Kanvs. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is Kanvs.
Those that are on the front line, but they're not always looked at because they own a business. But what we're going to dive in, I have an interview here with someone that I met a while ago, and I love the way she thinks, and I love how her mind works. And she broke down some of the emotions that people feel. And when I heard her speaking about it, it made me look inside of myself. I went down a long road as an entrepreneur, a long road, and it was very trying. So in this episode, we're going to dive into what we call the psychological price to be the boss. There's a lot of weight to this, people. And after all this main stuff, after the wave subsides, as you heard me say before, there's going to be another wave that's coming. It's going to be right in front of us. And this episode is for you. Now, I want to introduce you to Kimberly, licensed marriage and family therapist, CEO, Chief Inspirational Officer for the Center of Relational Health here in Las Vegas, certified Daring Way facilitator, and executive coach for BOR, a mastermind group for CEOs. Now, I want to bring Kimberly in so that we can kind of dive into some of the things that business owners are dealing with and trying to figure out how we can navigate through all of this. Hey, Kimberly, how you doing?
I'm well, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on the show. And, the reason this hit me, because when I was talking to you about doing something, my mindset was basically on the family and the things that are going on. And I'm like, I kept seeing these social media posts that were of people's response to business owners and how they were looked at. So I knew that you worked with CEOs and masterminds. On my side of the world, I'm working on the actual trying to figure out how to make the business run and work. And you're dealing with a lot of the minds and the emotions and the mental state. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself before we kind of dive into some questions that I have that I know a lot of business owners may be asking or trying to figure out.
Okay. Well, as you said, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, but I've always had an entrepreneurial side. I've been pretty much self-employed for probably about 18 years. I don't know if it's because I don't play well with others in the sandbox, or I just like being creative and kind of doing my own thing. But I do a little bit of everything. I do training, community trainings. I do individual therapy. And like you said, I am really passionate about working with CEOs because of the emotional health piece.
So Kim, there's a mindset that goes on with entrepreneurs, business owners. And I saw this report, and it said that most business owners deal with the emotion of depression on a daily basis. And I can't imagine what a lot of them are going through right now. What have you seen in this world of the mental state that business owners are dealing with, well past just this current situation?
Right. Well, I think when you look at business owners, they have not only what we deal with when we wake up, like when they think about their families and they think about the financial state of their families and their emotional well-being of their families. Business owners, CEOs have that, but amplified, because they're not just worrying about themselves, they're worrying about their employees. And with their employees, they all have families. They're worrying about their investors, their stockholders, and all of their families. They're worrying about their customers and what's going on. So they've got a tremendous amount of pressure. And when they do well, we don't necessarily, or they don't necessarily maybe pat themselves on the back. A good leader will give credit to everybody. But when something really tough happens, a lot of CEOs beat themselves up and they second guess themselves. And, I should have seen this coming. I should have done this. So there's a lot of times there's an element of shame in there that, you know what, I just didn't step up to the plate. I wasn't enough. So that, I think that makes sense.
The thing that I've realized, because I've had meetings, I've been able to do some Zoom meetings, and I'm seeing this level of I'm seeing fear, absolute fear. And others, I am seeing this push, this grind. And I'm not just talking, because the thing that I get to see is that I see businesses that are small, mom and pop, as well as mid-level companies. And I see the weight that is carrying on each one of them. What I'm noticing for the smaller business is they don't have as many options, because they may not know how to do everything that some of the bigger companies know how to do. They can't get unemployment. Some of them may not even qualify for some type of check. The SBA monies ran out. Mm-hmm. What is it that now they have to face to overcome this? Because sometimes most of them I know feel like they're alone. What do they have to do to try to overcome this mentally and physically?
Right. Well, I think a big part of it is what I describe as our circle of control. There are some things that are in our circle of control. There are some things that are in our circle of influence. And there are those things that are not in our circle of control. And I think one of the best things a business owner can do is they've got to stop and really be curious about what their thought process is in this. Is it a belief, or is it a truth? Is it a truth that they can do nothing about, or is it something that they can do? And what they can do, take a step and do that. I think also trying to go through this whole thing by themselves is a mistake. Isolating is a mistake. Letting that shame story get in your head and withdrawing is a mistake. We've got to collaborate and come together. That's what I think will help us.
I want you to dive in a little bit more about the shame story. Can you explain what is that based off of?
Well, a lot of times there's a story that we tell ourselves. And when we are in the middle of chaos, and I can tell you right now, it's chaos. The root of trauma is unpredictability. And that is the definition of what is going on right now, is unpredictability. And when that happens, that part of our brain gets triggered on survival mode, right? So we're in this survival mode. And our brain finishes a story. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It finishes its story. So a lot of times it will pull from past memories. So you remember when your dad said, you know what, you weren't smart enough to do this, or that old boss said, you know what, you're never going to make anything of yourself. Those stories begin to kind of come in our brain, and they go, you know what, I'm right. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have opened this business. Look at how many lives I'm impacting, in this negative way. And so that shame storm comes over them, and it almost makes them paralyzed. So when that comes over, I'm always saying, you've got to stop, take a breath, take care of yourself, and then be curious. Begin to pull apart that story. And again, I go back to it. Is it a belief, or is it the truth? And most of the time, it's a limiting belief. And most of the time, if we can stop and and take care of ourselves, we'll see that so that we can do the very next step.
I think the mindset I wrote on my board as this all happened, and I figured out in business, you're either going to die, you're going to survive, or you're going to thrive. The one thing I marked out is die, because I've gone through a whole lot. I've went through 2 recessions, 2 company failures with investors. And I realized that if you were able to get to the starting line once, you can get to it again. The thing is, what would you say to someone, how can you survive and thrive? Because sometimes that mindset that you have to have when you are trying to survive, it doesn't see the future. It can't even really visually go out there as to right now. What do you say to the business owner that's trying to figure out, okay, now I'm in survival mode, but I still have to have that glimpse of thriving?
Right. Well, you had said that, oftentimes we can't see the future, and that's true because a lot of times we're stuck in the past. So that's the first thing, is you've got to make sure you pull yourself out of the past. And then what I was talking about earlier is we cannot do this journey alone. I'm sure that you are aware, or you have heard of the parable of the 2-foot spoon. Have you heard of that?
No, explain.
Okay, so allow me to. So this man asked God, he said, what's the difference between heaven and hell? And God says, well, I'll show you. And he opens up the door, and the man walks in, and he sees tables full of just tremendous amount of food, smells incredible, looks incredible, but all the people sitting around are they're thin and they're gaunt, and they have spoons, 2-foot spoons at their table, and they can reach for the food and get it on their spoon, but they cannot bring the spoon to their mouth. So he says to God, okay, I see what hell is. Show me what heaven is. So God opens up the door. He walks in. Again, he sees the table full of food, and it smells good, looks good, but the people all around are happy and they are well nourished. And what he sees is that they also have the 2-foot spoon, but what they're doing is they're feeding each other.
Wow.
And that's what we need to be doing, is don't be a small business owner and be by yourself. Collaborate. It's one of the reasons why I love the mastermind groups. It's a collaboration. I don't have to have all of the answers, but man, together we can feed each other with our 2-foot long spoon.
That's an awesome story. It was weird because I was walking in the park. We were doing some exercise in the park, I think a couple of days ago. And I was like, you know what? I get an opportunity to talk to a lot of different business owners still. And I said, there's a lot of them that they don't have anyone else to talk to. So we're actually going to be putting together Zoom conferences where we can actually all come together, figure out things, help each other. And just hearing that story just kind of is that message of saying, you do that. Now, the question that I have, there was a social media post that I saw, I think day before yesterday, and they were talking about how a lot of the money was gone for small businesses. And I heard someone say, look, the business is stressing you out. Just let it go and go do something else. And I thought for a moment, what would I do else? There was this pain that came over me. It's almost like if someone said, hey, won't you go and pick up that want ad out of the newspaper? I don't even get near that thing. So What is the true mindset of a person? What would happen to this person when they have to sit down their dream, sit down what they've worked hard for, to go do really something for someone else?
Okay. Well, again, I think the answer is going to be different for everybody. It may be a time where some of us have to stop and really go, okay, maybe this is the end of this particular chapter. But again, if that is it, and you look at it as a failure, once again, how many great examples of leaders in our world that we have that have experienced failure. You just said it, and you are somebody I look up to tremendously. I have failed. That doesn't mean that's the end, right? Or we can look at it and go, okay, again, stop and slow down. Do we have enough information to make that decision to stop? Sometimes we have to count the cost. What is the cost? I have also known business owners who have stayed in business and probably shouldn't have, because it really did come at the cost of their families. But if the risk is great, and the reward is more, you get to make that choice, which one you get to do. Right?
That is the key, right? What you just said, because in both of the businesses that I lost, we had all the money that we needed. We had the staff, and it got to the point I became very sick. I became very emotionally stressed, and it was slowly tearing me down inside. And I had to go a different direction. I love what I was doing. And I think what you just said is one of those messages I think a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs need to think about. It's not over. Think about the Olympian that made it all the way to the Olympics and did not even qualify for that next level, but they came back again. This is what I'm saying to those that are in this and are trying to figure their way out. So, what I want to ask you, one of my last questions I want to ask you is, you get to sit in a room and you hear all these different brilliant minds, and some that, they just have brilliant people around them, and they don't want to, I don't need to know everything. I just want to have brilliant people around me. What do you do to inspire when they get a little stuck? What is it? Techniques? Is there any techniques? Is there something that you can give us to help us get past that little stuck? Because I've met a few business owners that are paralyzed.
Yes.
They don't even know how to move.
Right. So a lot of times that stuck is from that fight, flight, or freeze response. That is a direct result of experiencing trauma. And remember that that's the brain response. It is going to go into survival mode. And we don't always have a choice of how we do. Some people are natural fighters. Some people are natural in the freezing. If that is it, if you are stuck, again, I can't say it enough, but stop, breathe, become curious on what is going on with you. What are the stories that you are telling yourself? Again, you have to bring somebody else in to kind of process it with you. Tell me why you're stuck. What do you think it is? What is in your control? What could be a next step to prevent from playing out, that all or nothing, that worst case scenario? Even though I know that we are in the worst case scenario, I think this is also a time where we are seeing great creativity,
yes, a
great amount of innovation. I was just listening to the story of the gentleman who owns the toilet paper company. And he said, I had no idea that this was going to be a thing. He goes, but, I sent my son off to college and the college is closed down. He came back. He goes, I was afraid, we're not going to survive in this thing. His son comes up with an idea to have a monthly subscription to toilet paper. Who would have thought of that, right? That is some of the goodness that is coming out of this really tough time.
Yeah.
So talk it over with people.
And I think this is a time that, I always say to business owners, you have to be willing to take a risk. You took a risk to get into this. Some walked away from companies, some walked away from certain things that they were doing in their life to move forward. Kim, I'm going to ask you on the show again, because there's a lot of things that I think we need to address, because we're not even in the beginning of what we're going to see with business owners and what they're going to go through. And I think it's going to be key to kind of help them navigate through and get around masterminds. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to even become a part of your mastermind group and connect with the community?
Yeah. Well, you can certainly call me, email me. I'm on most of the social media, Center for Relational Health, or Kimberly at crh-lv.org, my email. please call me. I'd love to connect with you.
We'll put it on the screen
Okay,
so that you can be able to do that. And I want to thank you for tuning into the show. And I know you have a busy day ahead of you, and I want to let you get back to it. But we are going to come together again very soon, because this is a key point. As you know, I'm mentally fighting to stay positive until my wife tells me, look, it's okay not to be okay. Like, I don't know that mindset, but I'm going to try.
I love her.
But I want to thank you for being on the show, and thank you for sharing.
Michael, thank you for the good work you are doing. It's inspiring.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Now, you've heard this part of Kanvs, and like I said, I've always been a person that is about the mindset of the entrepreneur. The reason why is because it takes a special person to be willing to carry all of that weight and to follow your dreams. It's not easy to push forward when everyone wants to stay home. It's not easy to stay up to the 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning working when everyone else is sleeping. And I'm a person that have gone through a whole lot of trials. We've lost everything, me and my family with children, 3 times. I trusted in corporate jobs. We lost that. And I said, I'm not going to put my family in this situation again. And I know you can figure this out. I know you can figure this out. It's not something that may come easy, but this is a process. You can't buck the process. And I want to say this, look at the patterns. You know you have to fend for yourself. Our government is telling local government, we're only there to support you. Local government is telling the city government, hey, we're only there to support you and do what we say. And the city is telling the people, hey, we're doing our best, but you got to figure some things out on your own also. We're in this on our own. Let the support be there, but don't lean on it. You know, since we've gone through this, we've not received one thing. We've gone through the SBA loans. I'm learning other companies around me that have filled out, never got an application fee. Guess what? The first wave is gone. So now what are you going to do? You're going to die, survive, or thrive. It's your choice. This is the cost to be the boss. This is Michael Durant with Kanvs. I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Make sure you go to the website and subscribe. We're doing our best not to just depend on platforms for you to follow and like. We want you to come and subscribe so we can always be able to be in touch with you. We love you guys. Remember, life's a canvas, so paint away.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Kanvs with Michael Durant. We are always looking to inspire you with people, stories, insights, and things that matter. All politics aside, of course. So, visit us online at kanvslive.com. That's KANVS live.com. Or follow us on Instagram at Kanvs Live. Until next time, life is a canvas, so paint away.